This is what I was looking at and I'm saying, yes, they tarried in the wilderness for quite a while until they ended up dying. But this is what I was analyzing. It wasn't even fear that killed them, neither was it active disbelief. It was apathy and indifference, some type of resignation, lethargy, disinterest, a detachment, dullness, a passivity, a level of unconcern. It's almost as if they were disconnected from their lives. They were in an apostate state, completely unresponsive to the daily miracles that were their lives. Faith. Faith is believing without seeing. Here, they could see with their physical eyes, yet still could not believe in their spirit because their mind got in the way, which is why the mind must be renewed. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's a verse that Paul gives us. And the importance of renewing our minds cannot be overemphasized. Because here we see they were imprisoned under captivity just as much as they were in freedom, in that in-between place. Yet that in-between place is where God keeps us, so we can learn the rules of the kingdom we're entering, so we can prosper once we get there. Lawlessness cannot rule, so we must undergo training. This cannot happen while in captivity, as the oppressor will most certainly not allow it. So in captivity, all you can do is keep hope alive. And I think at the same time, it can't happen once you're in the promised land because there are giants to conquer in the promised land. If you go in there without training, you're going to be vanquished. You're not going to survive. You're not going to stay alive. And that's how it is in the spirit world. The airspace, as we know it, is full of all kinds of spirits. It's full of angels attending to our needs. And it's also full of demons hearkening to the devil's commands. And we know that the physical mimics the spiritual, so we know that that's how it is in the spiritual. So there's this understanding that even when you launch prayers, when you begin prayers, if you're not properly prepared for your prayers, the demons launch an attack back on you. We can see when some of the disciples were going to pray for this sick person, and the demon spoke up and said, Paul, we know, Jesus, we know, Paul, we know, but who are you? And then they got a beating of their lives. That is the life. There can be no expectation to step into your promised land if you haven't received proper training so that you'll win once you're in that promised land, because nothing comes without adversity. And no training can happen while you're still under captivity because your oppressor is not going to allow it, and you're so broken that all you can do is go from day to day, keeping hope alive. So there has to be this in-between place where God brings you to, and that's the wilderness, the vastness of it. But that's where he trains you to fight. That's where he assures that when you get to the promised land and you receive all of these blessings, you'll be able to hold on to them because you've received proper training to fight. You've received proper training to hold on to that which you have been given. I mean, God's gifts are precious. I can't imagine he gives them to us just knowing we're going to willy-nilly lose them to the enemy, because that's not a thriving economy if you do it like that. God intends to bless his children, and he intends for his children to keep those blessings and then turn around and become a blessing to others, not lose them to the enemy. So it's inevitable that the wilderness period has to be in every believer's life, because that's where you get your training in preparation for fighting, conquering, possessing, entering, staying in the promised land until such a time that you've defeated all your enemies on all sides and God gives you rest. All right, back to my writing. I said, plus, God's tool of breaking is adversity. In this case, captivity. Not that he causes the captivity as much as he uses everything for our good. So what the devil leverages against you is captivity, whether it's poverty, whether it's sickness. God has the ability to take that very tool that the devil is using to oppress you. God uses that tool of adversity to train your fingers for battle and to train your hands for war. So God's tool of breaking is adversity, in this case captivity. A people can only be made after they have been broken. You cannot remake a strong man. You must first weaken him to make him again. Their breaking lasted as long as it did because that's how long it took for them to cry out to the Lord. And that's another thing. There's a lot of crying out to the Lord once we come to the book of Judges, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, meaning, refuse to die in your distress. Refuse to battle alone or to not battle at all. Battle by crying out to the Lord. The sooner, the better, before your spirit is too broken to be remade. Cry out to God at the first sign of trouble. Cry out even preemptively. Give him no rest. I will not let you go until you bless me, said Jacob. And God changed his name to call him Israel, meaning those who wrestle with God. As Christians, we are called to wrestle. We are called to wrestle with the word. We're called to wrestle with our mindsets. We're called to wrestle with issues such as forgiveness, issues such as revenge. We're called to wrestle with a lot of things. We must wrestle. And it is in that wrestling that we're being refined. It's in that wrestling that our mindsets are being changed. It's in that wrestling that our peace is restored. It is in that wrestling that we then attain our blessings. That is how we possess the promise, by wrestling and coming out of that refined as pure as gold. Yeah, which is something that Job says, yeah, when he has tried me, I shall come forth as gold. Let us be encouraged. Let us be encouraged. Whatever trials we're facing, whatever tribulations we're facing, God can use all of that for our good, and we must wrestle. We must fight the good fight of faith. That way, that's actually the only way that we're going to possess the promise. Okay, I'm going to leave it here for now. Bye-bye.